Hi, today we're going to look at solving radical equations using factoring and quadratic formula. So first one, I need to get that radical to disappear. So I know it has an index of 2 because it doesn't say anything. So when it doesn't say anything, there's a 2 there. In order to break that, we raise everything to an exponent of 2. On the left side here, the square root and the exponent, they cancel out. You're left with negative 2x plus 2. On the right side, I need to make sure everything gets raised to that exponent of 2. So what happens now is I have two of these parentheses here. I have to multiply them together. When I do, I get x squared plus 6x plus 9. Now, I need to bring everything to one side. I want this problem to say 0, x equal, or problem equals 0. So let's move this 2x into 2. So we say plus 2x minus 2, cutting down steps here. 0 equals x squared, 8x, and then 7. So you can only solve when your problem says equals to 0. You need that 0 over there. So from here, now we can factor. Factoring, I want to break this trinomial up into two binomials, two groups. So those two groups, what times what gives us x squared? Well, x times x. What times what gives us 7? We only have one pair here. It's got to be 1 and a 7. Now, also, what multiplies together to give us 7, but then adds or subtracts to give us 8? Well, plus 1 plus 7. And double check ourselves. Positive times a positive gives us a positive. We're okay. So once you come up with those two parentheses, great. Now we're going to take each group, set them each equal to 0. X plus 1 equals 0. X plus 7 equals 0. And we just work on through. X equals negative 1. X equals negative 7. So when you're dealing with square roots, sometimes the answers that we get may not always be the correct answer. We may have something called an extraneous solution. One of those is wrong. We have to check to make sure that they work. So I'm going to take each one of these, plug them back into the original all the way up top. So let's do a check. Negative 1 goes into that original black problem up here. So we're going to say square root negative 2 times negative 1 plus 2 equals negative 1 plus 3. Negative 2, negative 1 gives us positive 2 plus 2 underneath the square root. That gives us 4 underneath. That gives us 2. On the right side, 3 minus 1 gives us 2. That statement makes sense. This makes sense. Let's try this one more time, but with the negative 7. Negative 2, negative 7 plus 2 equals negative 7 plus 3. You get 2 and 7, negative gives us positive 14 plus 2. That's under the square root. Those give us 16, which is then 4. On the right side, negative 7 and 3 gives us negative 4. Those two things are not the same. That means this is wrong. Negative 7 is what we call an extraneous solution. It's the correct wrong answer. I don't want it. All the work we did was correct, but when you plug it back in, it doesn't work. That's the only possible answer. Okay, so we're going to try this all again. This time, we're going to, instead of factoring and doing all this work, we're going to try and just use the quadratic formula. So start by getting rid of the square root. Index of 2 raised to an exponent of 2. You're left with y plus 1. On the right side, this whole thing has to get raised to an exponent of 2. So when you have this parenthesis times itself, you're left with y squared minus 2y plus 1. Let's bring everything to the right side. Minus y, save a step, we'll do it together. Minus 1. 0 equals y squared minus 3y. And I'm going to just actually put a 0 there, just as a placeholder. So when we use quadratic formula, we know what A, B, and C is. So let's figure out what is A, what is B, what is C. A equals the number in front of y squared, 1. B is the number in front of y. It's going to be that -3. Do not forget the negative. And C is a number all by itself at the end, giving us 0. So let's take these three numbers and now substitute them in all the way up here. So we get x equals -3. So what just happened is I have a negative in my original formula, and I'm taking this number and putting it next to it in place of b, so both negatives stay. Plus minus square root -3 squared minus 4, 1, 0, all over 2 times 1. Okay, so we plugged everything in. Now let's simplify. +3 plus or minus square root -3 gives us 9, but 4 times 1 times 0 gives us 0. We do not need to do that. We can just leave it as that plain old 9. On the bottom, you get 2. Okay, take it one more step. 3 plus or minus 3 all over 2. Now we get to rewrite our answer twice. So we're going to say 3 plus 3 over 2. So 6 over 2, which is 3. X equals, or rather y equals. And on the other side, we have 3 minus 3 over 2, which is 0 over 2, which is 0. Okay, we now have our two possible answers, but I have to check. I have to make sure that they're the correct answers. Take them step by step. So I'm running out of room here. We're going to say 3 plus 1 equals 3 minus 1. 3 plus 1 inside gives us 4. Underneath the square root, that's 2. On the right side, 3 minus 1 is 2. That's good. That's good. That's an answer. Let's try it again with a 0. You're going to have 0 plus 1 underneath the square root equals 0 minus 1. You're left with 1, which is under the square root. Square root of 1 is 1. On the right side, 0, that is negative. That does not make sense. That does not make sense. 0 is an extraneous solution. So you have to remember when you have square roots and we're dealing with an equation, you have to check your answers to make sure they are correct, unless we might have some extraneous solutions in there. And that is solving radical equations using factoring and quadratic formula.